So 165 people are heading to the unemployment line in 100 Mile House. And people seem to be quite upset about something I said on TikTok and went around on Facebook. I mean, it got tens of thousands of views. Sometimes my things blow up. I'm getting a bit of anger about this, but I'm going to defend it, what I said. I said in one of my TikToks that they don't care about you. It's American-owned company. And I didn't say it's not. I didn't say it's an American company. I want to correct what people are thinking here and try to explain myself and explain how capitalism works and how shareholders and stockholders work and how investment capitalism works. Okay? What I didn't say is it's an American company. No, it's a Canadian company. I get that. I get that it was founded in Quesnel. I totally understand that its head offices are in Vancouver. That's not what I'm talking about when I said it's owned by Americans. It was tongue-in-cheek, yes, but it's my way of explaining that you don't go in the grocery store and bump into the guys, the corporate managers of West Fraser and be like, oh, hey, can you please not shut my mill down and put 165 people out of work? Hey, we've worked hard for you. We've made you hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of millions. We've made you maybe even billions of dollars. If you look at the last 6 years, they've pulled somewhere between $30 and $40 billion in revenue. I'm sure we could find an exact number here. I'm just guesstimating because I saw the numbers. It was like 6 this year. It was more the year before, but we had a couple years where it was less. So we're talking $30-40 billion in revenue. People are pointing out, well, they made $200 million less last quarter. Well, who goes by quarters anyways in capitalism? Nobody. So A, moot point. B, they didn't. This is the language that they claim. They claim we lost money. Did they? Now, it's when I lose money, what happens is I take this quarter and I put it on my table, and when I come downstairs, a child has come and taken it and gone and bought fucking candy. They say, oh, I lost that money. It was there, but now it's not there. They didn't make that money. They're $200 million less. Okay. We can talk about that. Let's talk about it honestly, though. Did they lose $200 million or did they fail to make $200 million? This is the language of capitalism. I have trouble with it. I have problems with this language. I fight against it. I push against it all the time because I don't agree with that language. You didn't lose $200 million. You failed to make $200 million. Hey, that's 40,000 logging truck loads or whatever. It's a lot of wood. It's a lot of money you didn't make. There's a lot of expenditure that probably went out. I get it. And now what I'm also not saying is that your local guys at West Fraser, the managers in Quesnel, I'm sure the people who are running the operations here care about the community. I have absolutely no disagreement with that. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the head honchos. I'm talking about the corporate structure that's sitting around in buildings and, up in skyscrapers and we can't really afford to keep this town fed any longer, because, if we shut down the mill in 100 Mile House, we can put an extra $1 million into the investors' pockets next year. That's a great idea. Hey, that's great. Let's go to Broadway tonight. How it works. So let's talk about West Fraser Company a little bit. Look at some of the holdings and discuss what did Joey mean. What does Joey mean when he says they don't care about putting people in a 100 Mile House out of business? And I'm not going to sit here and listen to the finger pointing that's been going on. This is all because of the NDP. This is all because of the federal liberals. No, this is because of 60 years of mismanagement and poor planning. This is because of 60 years of giving corporations like West Fraser free reign to do what they want. They come take as much as they can, and when they run out of logs, they say, screw you, close your community down. Close your mill down. Put 165 people out of work. And they walk away, and these people who are owning this company, they're not hurting for money. Let's have a look at who some of them are. I'm hearing rumor that people are saying we need to put up to 45 million cubic meters of allowable cut in order to keep these companies going. What? What? They're talking about doubling? How is it possible that you could have made a profit 3 years ago cutting less, but now you can? Okay, so I get it. There is some tariff shit there. Okay, I get it. There's a few regulatory things there. But that's not the whole story, is it? That's not the whole story entirely, is it? How you fail to make money out of a venture like this. Information regarding the precise number of American shareholders is not publicly available. The company does have a significant number of American institutional shareholders. Institutional shareholders. These are mega mega investment firms, okay? Institutional shareholders. This isn't like you and me having a couple shares. These are people who have a lot of money. This is a big company that has many portfolios. They're talking about institutional shareholders, okay? Comprehensive data on all individual and institutional investors by country is not released. They don't want you to know that. Okay, so there is significant U.S. institutional ownership. As of November 2025, over 400 institutional investors have filed forms with U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission, SEC, holding tens of millions of shares. These institutions include major U.S. investment firms like Vanguard Group and Price T. Rowe Associates. While West Fraser is headquartered in Vancouver, it has a substantial presence and operation in the U.S. and a dual listing on the New York Stock Exchange. This dual listing facilitates ownership by Canadian and American investors. Okay, is West Fraser owned by Americans? Yes, some Americans own West Fraser. So there's a troll who want to say that I'm spreading misinformation, ready to come back here and apologize. I doubt that very much. That's not how it works. Then you have asset companies like Brookfield Holdings, which is a Canadian multinational investment company that's one of the world's largest alternative assets managers. Okay, but its primary subsidiary, Brookfield Asset Management, moved its headquarters to New York City. So, again, one of these institutional investors, Brookfield, a corporation there. It's only, sure, it's a Canadian company whose headquarters are in New York City. Business structure. Its structure includes three main areas: alternative asset management, wealth solutions. Well, they're putting you out of work there. This is $1 trillion company. The company has assets that equal $1 trillion. This is just one of the many institutional investors that can afford to keep 165 people working. These are the people who've been putting millions in their pockets from all the trees that get cut down in BC. They live in Toronto. They live in Vancouver. They live in New York City. They live in, Britain. They live all over the world. They have money, and their investor firms have their fingers in things all over the place, and they have the money. They have tons of money. They don't have any shortage of money. They got $1 trillion in fucking assets. They can afford to, but they don't care. They don't care if a town like 100 Mile House that's like low, they're distanced from it. Their asset holdings, like they don't hear about it or know about it or care. And if they do, it's like, oh, well, yeah, I guess there's a town out there. But business is business. We got to close the mill down. Brookfield is owned by a mix of public and individual investors. Brookfield Corporation, significant stocks. Now it does include Bank of Canada, Capital World Investors, Vanguard Group. Such weird name. Is Brookfield owned by BlackRock? No, BlackRock does not own Brookfield, but BlackRock does own significant stakes in several Brookfield subsidiaries. So even Brookfield isn't owned by Brookfield. Even West Fraser is not owned by West Fraser. Like you think it's the mom and pop corporation from Quesnel? Do you? Do you think its CEO doesn't have an office in Memphis, Tennessee? Right? Like these are humongous corporations that are pulling $6 billion in revenue. And they're like, well, $200 million loss, $200 million out of $6 billion. What percentage is that? It's, I guess, fairly high, but it's not that high. It's not that significant. $200 million, the cost of business. But yeah, you keep blaming everybody else, keep pointing the finger. It's the NDP's fault. It's the Liberals' fault. It's, here's Bruce Flatt. He's the CEO of Brookfield with over $1 trillion in assets. They never tell you where these guys are born and where they're from. Bruce Flatt. He joined Brookfield in 1990 and became CEO in 2002. Who owns West Fraser Timber Company? Vanguard owns the most shares of West Fraser. What is the significance of ownership structure for a publicly traded company? Is an American registered investment advisor based in Malvern, Pennsylvania, with $11 trillion in global assets under management as of January 31st, 2025. The Vanguard Group, along with BlackRock. There's that name BlackRock again, who has a large ownership in Brookfield, an American multinational investment company. So the Canadian company isn't a Canadian company. Not Brookfield, not West Fraser. They're not. This is how capitalism works, my friends. These Canadian companies aren't Canadian owned. Yeah, sure. A lot of the shareholders are Canadians, maybe even more than 50%. The ownership structure of West Fraser's stock, a mix of institutional, retail, and individual investors. 16% of the company's stock is owned by institutional investors, and 83% is owned by public companies and individual investors. Top shareholders: Vanguard, 1.6 million shares. 2% of the holdings, 112 million shares. T. Rowe Price Equity, $92 million worth of shares. iShares, Bill Manning, Thrivent. So that's, Vanguard Tax Managed. So there's two Vanguard companies. Okay, you're getting the idea here. Mutual fund holdings, Vanguard Star Funds. So there's another. Vanguard has their, Vanguard Tax Managed Funds. So they got 3 Vanguard companies in here, 3 separate Vanguard subsidiaries owning $14 million worth here, $53 million worth, and $33 million worth. iShares U.S. Infrastructure has $16 million. That's only 0.3% of the holdings. I get it. But again, these aren't Canadians. This isn't Canadian ownership. That's not what Canadian ownership looks like, friends. Yeah, they reported a net loss of $200 million on sales of $1.3 billion. Now, let's ask a couple questions about this net loss. $200 million, it does sound pretty bad. Sounds pretty bad. Look at this. I was wrong. They made $10 billion in revenue in 2021, $9 billion in 2022, and 6.45 in 2023. So there's some hyperactive. Now, of course, this is a company that's busy all over the place. They're busy in the States. They're busy all over the place, right? So, just because they're losing $200 million doesn't mean they're losing it in BC. Doesn't mean they lost it in 100 Mile House. Doesn't mean they lost it in Quesnel. West Fraser has numerous mills across North America, BC, Alberta, U.S., including states like North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, Florida, Alabama, Arkansas, and Texas. Company has facilities in other parts of the United States, such as Louisiana, additional locations in Canada, such as Alberta and British Columbia. So here's what I find funny, too. People are blaming Carney. They're like, well, he just hasn't been nice enough to Trump. As if Trump isn't the one responsible for creating chaos in terms of tariffs and whatnot. So you get companies that are based in Canada or based in the United States trying to do business on both sides of the borders now. They're losing money. They're losing money because they chose to integrate with the United States. They chose to integrate with the United States a long time ago. West Fraser chose to integrate with the United States a long time ago. If they're losing money, they're losing money because of Donald Trump. They're losing money because of their choices to be tied to American investment capitalism. Okay, BC has multiple sawmills, plywood plants on their facilities. So does Alberta. Same with other Canadian there's 13 mills in the southern U.S., including North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, Florida, Alabama, Arkansas, Texas. They're losing $200 million across all these locations. It's not like they're just losing $200 million in 100 Mile House. Let's not gaslight the people in 100 Mile House. Be like, well, they lost $200 million. That's not what happened in 100 Mile House. Okay, the company has mills in states such as Louisiana. You get 50 locations, including Europe, with 32 mills, 15 OSB mills, 9 engineering wood mills, 2 pulp paper mills. Let's not forget Sean McLaren, the CEO, makes $7.52 million. The people who founded the company here were Americans in the first place. Sure, it's founded in Quesnel, but they are Americans back in the day when they founded it. So, this guy, Sean McLaren, he's got his head office down there in Memphis, Tennessee, his own personal office. So just so you understand, he's not a Canadian. He doesn't care about you. He doesn't care about 100 Mile House. He doesn't care. Am I still spreading misinformation? Or is it just that you're so loyal to this company that superficially cares about you locally? Like I say, maybe your regional manager cares about you. Maybe the people who are actually in charge of things here in this region of BC don't want to see people get put out of work, want to see jobs continue. But here's the truth is that with the way we've been logging and cutting voraciously, they've been like, you can only cut the lawn so many times before the grass isn't there. In our allowable lumber that's even here, they've gone absolutely bonkers in the back of the Cariboo forest here. They're flying helicopters around, putting spraying against any broadleaf tree, trying to kill that off, making our forest more susceptible to fire in doing so. Then they're coming around and putting fertilizers. This is happening. You've seen this. The West Fraser putting fertilizers we got helicopters flying around back there, scaring grizzly bears. And what percentage of allowable timber is left? Very little. They're cutting so rapaciously and rapidly with using larger machines, come in, blah, blah, blah. I'm not against you logging, guys. I'm not against you. I think logging has to happen, but I think the way we're logging in BC is absolutely crazy. That I can sit here and look at fire hazards surrounding my town. Well, you go back in the wilderness and you're cutting down the damn wilderness, ruining the inland rainforest, ruining some of the only wilderness left. We need trees. We need the carbon sink. We need the CO2 filter. We need the trees. We need the animals. We need to have some places that are still wild left in the world. They've come back here in the wilderness here, and they've absolutely destroyed it. It'll never look the same in my lifetime again. And then they're going to sit there and tell me, well, we lost $200 million. You just come and fucking ruin my forest, and now you're going to put everybody out of work? Say we lost $200 million. We can't, well, and the same thing's going to happen to Quesnel. What's going to happen here when they realize that there's no timber left? Well, we'll start shipping logs from 100 Mile House. We'll start shipping logs from Mackenzie. It's crazy. It's crazy. We have to rethink how logging's done. We got to start logging along corridors of civilization, which includes our highways, our roadways around our communities. We got to start selectively logging. We got to start doing more patchworks, quilt works out there, and stop this rapacious, large-scale logging that's going on and slow down. It's not maintainable. It's not sustainable. And the thing is, you could cut less wood and have more jobs, and there's countries in the world where that's going on. It's the way BC does things, and what's crazy is, like, the Europeans just wouldn't understand if they saw the piles of waste we set on fire out in the wilderness every year. We're so wasteful. We're losing money because we are not being innovative here in British Columbia. We're just coming in and like factory farming with the fucking big lawnmower. Cut the forest down, empty the bag at the sawmill. Here's your grass clippings. And that's basically what our trees are becoming out here, is grass clippings. Like that, we're running out of nice large trees, and then the way we're cutting is so damaging to the soils, to the water. So Sean McLaren, CEO, West Fraser, the guy made $8 million. How many people can you employ for that? Look at that. If he paid $60,000, that's a pay cut for some of you guys. I get it. But still, $60,000, maybe working a little less hours. We could put 133 people to work for the money that we give to Sean McLaren. There you go, folks. Think about that. If everybody was making 60 grand, So what do I think? I think if West Fraser wants to abandon a community like 100 Mile House, who's, has such a historically hardworking community, he's done so much to make that company money, who's put so much of their lives, so much of their community, their energy, you're going to do that to them. And I think their forest licenses should lapse. Who should get the forest licenses? Well, I'm open for debate, whether it's First Nations or community forest. I think we got to take every time one of these companies abandons a community, we got to take the power out of their hands, so they can't just come back later, log it, and then ship the logs to Quesnel. They actually are talking about putting, this may be rumor, but I keep hearing this, putting rail line back up to Mackenzie so they can ship logs to Quesnel. So everybody who used to have a job in a Mackenzie mill is sitting there scratching their head. That's what's going on, folks. This is called ultra-capitalism. You minimize your expenditures, you maximize your profits. If something, is only breaking even, well, we have to constantly grow. That's the game. The game is constant growth. That's how capitalism works. And I thought I showed you this, but I didn't. Just for your own information there. $8 million we give to Sean McLaren and say, or whatever I just said. Yeah, $8 million. You take the $8 million we give to him, divide it by 60,000. You're putting 133 people back to work. So what's the solution here? I say the solution is get rid of Sean McLaren and workers seize the means of production. Yeah, I'm sure that's real popular. That's communist talk, Joey. Well, fuck, what are you going to do? You're going to sit there and keep defending these people who, drive around a Mercedes and wear nice suits and Rolexes in some other city in some other part of the world, even if they're from Vancouver? Fuck them. Hey, what do you mean, Joey? Do you mean fuck Jimmy Pattison? He's one of the owners. He's a big shareholder in West Fraser. You don't mean fuck Jimmy Pattison. He's from BC. Actually, I mean especially fuck Jimmy Pattison. Even if they're not Americans we're talking about. If we're talking about investors that are largely centered in Vancouver, which isn't the case, but say it was. Fuck them. They don't get off their lazy asses. They don't go run chainsaws. They don't go friggin' run machinery. They don't run log truck. They don't fucking go timber cruising. They don't go out to the wilderness. They're scared of it. They don't know nothing about it. They got alligator shoes on. And they decided that you shouldn't have a job because it's costing them too much money. Well, screw them. So anyways, that's what I want to say. I'm a little humorless because I've been just taking such an obnoxious amount of trolling lately. But I'm going to just keep speaking up the way that I feel it. And if, You like it? Keep coming back. Hit like, share, subscribe. We can talk about this some more if you want. We're only scratching the surface of this topic. Okay, friends, we'll talk next time. Bye now.